thinks of herself. And I couldn't resist it. I said, but that's why she's here. And then, oh, you nurses, you're hard as nails. You know? You're hard as nails. But sometimes as women, we tend to give everything out to other people and don't always think of ourselves. And that really, I think that was where my interest, particularly in women, started when I saw that. And there was complete acceptance by the family that this was okay, and she was probably going to be going back the next day and doing the washing and, you know, oh, look how marvellous she is, look how she's recovered. And that's a sort of belief system that we need to shift, I think, as well. I think that's important. And of course we're seeing it when we're in business as well, that the load on women, they do all the house as well as the business. You know, not really something that I'm very concerned about. So I thought, well, I'd like to sort of try and go back to the beginning and sort of see where all this happened. So I did my midwifery and was delivering babies and things like that. And found that actually no, because it's still the parents, you know? It's like there's a vicious cycle. So I don't know whether you have this in Sweden, I don't mention it to you, Anna. I then went to university and did what is called a health visiting course. Now, health visitors in England, they are practitioners, a bit like doctors, and you work in the community with families. So you work, and it's not about illness. This is where, because I'm a psychologist, this is actually about working with the family to maintain their health. So, do you have that? You don't have that in Sweden, do you? These are people who are nurses, midwives, trained in psychology. No. I know.
We have like for young people in the city center, as a city where they can go, but still if they are ill, and we call vårdcentralen, now we call health centers, right? I think we don't have it, but the mindset is coming.
Yes, because they don't have it here in Malta, and I think it's absolutely vital. And the same as a doctor, a general practitioner in the community, I had a number of clients for which I was responsible, and I was registered, you know, like a doctor. And that was quite fulfilling in a way, and that's where you start doing health education, you know, health promotion, those sorts of things. So you do clinics, you know, vaccination clinics, go into the schools, the children, then you have the group of disabled and the elderly, you have the pregnant, and it was my role to ensure that they stayed as healthy as possible. It was quite demanding. It was quite demanding. And at the time I also had my family. But I was still searching. I still didn't feel like, it wasn't there for me. So I applied for a job as a lecturer in health education and went into the teaching side. Meanwhile, I did get qualifications, by the way. I did go to university and things. But again, a lot of these systems are very much in the hands of bureaucracy. And sometimes what you would like to do, you can't do. Yes, you understand that. Or you do it and you get told off. Yes. And I'm not saying that I'm right. You know, I'm not an autocrat by any means. But sometimes you can't get a voice sometimes in systems. You know, your voice is not heard. So I did a bit of a drastic thing, really, in a way, now when I look back. I thought, well, it seems to me that what is behind health and education, what supports it, is a strong economy. You know, if a country, and we're seeing it now drastically in Europe, if there isn't the money being made, businesses aren't flourishing, then the country can't afford the welfare. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing handouts. We're seeing, you know, welfare, people going to soup kitchens and things like this in Greece. I mean, it's shocking. And that's a whole other story. So I thought, I think I want to see how money is made. Because all I'd had was wage slips and checks and grants. I'd never actually done something there and got the money. And I thought, this is where it is. And I saw an advert in the newspaper for a kit of cosmetics, not tested on animals. And they were looking for people to sell them. It was, do you know about networking, franchising? Yes, it was that kind of thing. So I left my job. Bearing in mind I had 3 children, and a very annoyed husband.
How old were your children at this moment?
My children, I'm just trying to think. Sarah was about, they were small. They were sort of like about 12, well, yes, 12, no, a bit younger than that. They were about 8 and 6, and yes.
Wow.
Sarah's 2.5 years younger than Juliet, so 2.5 years of 8, so yeah. I had young children. And if you ever speak to them, they say that they were slaves, because because they said when they came in, because I started as ever in all the product was in the hall, and they said they had to pack lipsticks before they did the homework. They did actually. And you know why they packed
for them, they learned
yeah, they've learned, yes. Oh yes.
I have 4 slaves as well. So
You've got, yeah, oh yes, 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 well I had. And then my fourth daughter was adopted. I adopted a fourth girl who was having problems and things. But yes, and of course also if I did a little competition with them as